The gunshot that killed her husband had been meant for her, and Eliza Rollins had been running ever since, though the law saw it differently and wanted her neck in a noose for his murder. She pressed herself against the rough bark of a cottonwood tree, her dark hair matted with sweat and dust, her split skirt torn from days of hard riding through the unforgiving landscape of southern Arizona territory. The sound of hoofbeats echoed somewhere behind her, and she knew the posse from Tucson would not stop until they found her. Her horse had gone lame 2 miles back, and she had turned the mare loose, knowing the animal deserved better than to die with her in some nameless canyon. The sun beat down mercilessly as Eliza stumbled forward, her canteen empty, her lips cracked and bleeding. She had made it to the edge of what looked like ranch land, miles of scrubby grassland dotted with cattle bearing a brand she could not quite make out from this distance. In the shimmering heat, she saw a structure, a low adobe ranch house with a barn and corral nearby. It might be her only chance, though walking up to a stranger's door could mean walking straight into the arms of the law. She had no choice now. Her legs were giving out, and the November sun of 1884 felt hot enough to cook her where she stood. Eliza made it halfway across the open ground before her knees buckled. She went down hard, tasting dirt and blood, her vision swimming with black spots. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was a tall figure walking toward her, backlit by the brutal Arizona sun. When consciousness returned, it came slowly, like swimming up from deep water. Eliza felt coolness on her forehead, the softness of a real bed beneath her, and smelled something cooking. Her eyes flew open and she tried to sit up, but a gentle hand pressed her back down. "Easy there. You have been out for near about 6 hours. Thought you might not wake up at all." The voice was deep, rough from disuse, but not unkind. Eliza focused on the face above her and saw a man in his early 30s with sun-weathered skin, dark eyes that held both wariness and concern, and a jaw shadowed with several days of stubble. His hair was black and slightly too long, falling past his collar. "Name is Owen Quade. This is my ranch. Found you collapsed on my property." Eliza's heart hammered in her chest. She looked around frantically, taking in the simple room with its whitewashed walls, a single window showing twilight outside, a dresser with a washing basin. "Where are my things? My saddle bags, on the chair there. Did not go through them. Not my business." Owen gestured to a wooden chair near the door where her weathered saddle bags sat. "You were burning up with fever and dehydrated. Got some water in you, cooled you down. You have been through something terrible, that much is clear." She tried to sit up again, and this time he let her, though she swayed dangerously. "I need to go. I cannot stay here. They will be looking for me." "Who will be looking for you?" Owen asked, his dark eyes steady on her face. Eliza met his gaze and saw no judgment there yet, but she knew it would come. Everyone believed she had killed Charles. The evidence looked damning, her standing over his body with the gun in her hand, his blood on her dress. No one had believed her when she said the killer had fled through the window, that she had only picked up the gun in shock. Charles had made enemies in his business dealings, dangerous men who did not take kindly to being cheated, but he had been a respected businessman in Tucson, and she had been just his wife, a woman with no voice that mattered. "The law," she said finally, deciding that some version of the truth was necessary. This man had helped her, and she would not repay that kindness with complete deception. "They think I killed my husband. I did not do it, but I cannot prove it, and they will hang me if they catch me." Owen was quiet for a long moment, his weathered face unreadable. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening land. "How long ago?" "5 days. It happened in Tucson. I have been riding since then, trying to get to Mexico, but I did not make it." Her voice cracked, and she hated the weakness in it. "Mexico is still a good 40 miles south of here. You would not have made it on foot, not in your condition." He turned back to her, and she braced herself for what would come next. He would turn her in, or worse, he would simply tell her to leave and let the desert finish what it had started. Instead, he said, "You hungry?" The question was so unexpected that Eliza just stared at him. "What? Food? When did you last eat?" Owen moved toward the door, pausing to look back at her. "You can tell me the rest after you get something in your stomach. You are no good to anyone dead, guilty or innocent." She followed him on shaky legs into the main room of the ranch house. A simple space with a stone fireplace, a rough-hewn table and chairs, and a kitchen area where a pot bubbled over the fire. The furnishings were sparse but clean, the home of a man who lived alone and saw no need for excess. Owen ladled stew into 2 bowls and set them on the table, along with thick slices of bread that looked a day or 2 old but still edible. Eliza sat and ate, trying not to wolf down the food despite her hunger. She had been raised with manners, though her current circumstances hardly called for them. Owen ate in silence across from her, and she studied him when she thought he was not looking. He was a handsome man in a rough way, tall and lean with the kind of strength that came from hard physical work. His hands were calloused, his forearms corded with muscle where his sleeves were rolled up. There was a loneliness about him that she recognized, a solitude that went deeper than just living alone. "Why are you helping me?" she asked finally, setting down her spoon. "You do not know me." "For all you know, I did kill my husband." Owen was quiet for a moment, then said, "Did you?" "No." The word came out fierce, stronger than she felt. "I loved Charles once, though that love had died long before he did. He was not a good man, not truly, but I did not kill him. Someone came through the window while I was in the next room. I heard the shot, ran in, and found him already dead. The gun was on the floor. I picked it up without thinking, and that is when the sheriff arrived. Charles had sent for him earlier about some business matter. The timing made me look guilty. So you ran." "What choice did I have? They would not believe me. I am just a woman, and Charles was well respected in Tucson. His business partners vouched for his character. No one would listen to my side." Eliza felt the familiar anger and helplessness rise in her chest. "I knew what a trial would bring. They had already decided I was guilty." Owen nodded slowly, as if this made perfect sense to him. "I know something about not being believed, about being judged for things outside your control." He stood and collected their bowls, taking them to a bucket of water to wash. "You can stay here for now. Rest. Recover your strength. Then we will figure out what comes next. Just like that. You will hide a fugitive." Eliza could not keep the disbelief from her voice. He turned to look at her, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. "I do not believe you killed him. Call it instinct, call it foolishness, but I have gotten pretty good at reading people in my years alone out here. You have the eyes of someone who has been wronged, not someone who has done wrong. Besides, if the law comes looking, I will just say I have not seen anyone. This ranch is remote enough that they might not even make it out here. You would lie for me, risk yourself for a stranger." "Yes." The simple certainty in his voice left no room for argument. "Get some more rest. We can talk more in the morning." Eliza wanted to protest, to argue that she could not accept such kindness, that she would bring trouble down on him, but exhaustion was pulling at her again, and the bed in that small room called to her like a siren song. She nodded and made her way back, pausing at the doorway. "Thank you, Owen Quade. I do not know why you are doing this, but thank you." "You are welcome, Eliza Rollins." He had read her name from something in her saddle bags, she realized, or perhaps she had said it while delirious. It did not matter. For the first time in 5 days, she felt a small measure of safety, and she clung to that feeling as she fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning, Eliza woke to the sound of roosters crowing and the smell of coffee. She rose slowly, her body stiff and sore but stronger than before. Someone had left a clean basin of water and a cloth, and she washed as best she could, wishing for a proper bath but grateful for what she had. Her dress was ruined, torn and stained beyond repair, but in her saddle bags she found a spare skirt and blouse. They were wrinkled but clean, and she changed quickly, braiding her long dark hair to keep it out of her face. When she emerged, Owen was at the stove, frying eggs and bacon. He glanced at her and nodded toward the table. "Coffee is hot. Help yourself." She poured a cup and sat, watching him work. He moved with the efficiency of someone long accustomed to doing for himself. "How long have you lived here alone?" 4 years, give or take. Bought this land with money I saved from working cattle drives up north. Built most of this place myself. He brought 2 plates to the table and sat across from her. Had a partner for the first year, but he decided ranch life was not for him and went back east. Been just me since then. No wife, no family. Eliza knew she was prying, but the question came naturally. No. Came close once, but she chose someone else. Someone with better prospects, a bigger spread, more money. Cannot blame her for that. There was no bitterness in his voice, only a kind of resigned acceptance. "What about you? Besides the dead husband, I mean. No family left." "My parents died when I was 18. I married Charles a year later because I needed security, and he needed a wife to make him look respectable. It was a practical arrangement more than a love match, though I tried to make it work." Eliza sipped her coffee, the hot liquid bracing. "He was 15 years older than me, set in his ways. We had no children, which is probably for the best now." They ate in companionable silence, and then Owen stood. "I have work to do, cattle to check on, fences to mend. You should stay inside today, keep out of sight just in case anyone comes around. There is food in the pantry, books on the shelf if you want something to read. Make yourself at home." "I could help," Eliza offered. "I am not useless. I can cook, clean, mend. I do not want to just sit idle." Owen considered this, then nodded. "Fair enough. Place could use a woman's touch, I suppose. Do what you feel up to, but do not overdo it. You are still recovering." He left, and Eliza found herself alone in the quiet house. She spent the morning tidying, sweeping floors, washing dishes, organizing the simple pantry. It felt good to be useful, to have purpose beyond running and hiding. She found a needle and thread and mended a pile of Owen's clothes that had clearly been waiting for attention. Socks with holes, shirts with missing buttons, a torn jacket. By midday, she had made bread dough and set it to rise, and had a pot of beans soaking for dinner. When Owen returned at sunset, dusty and tired, he stopped in the doorway and stared. The house was cleaner than it had been in months. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, and the table was set for 2. "You have been busy. I told you I could help. It was the least I could do." Eliza felt oddly nervous under his gaze, wanting him to approve of her efforts. "I hope you do not mind." "Mind. This is the most welcoming this place has felt since I built it." He washed up at the basin and sat at the table, looking almost uncomfortable with the domesticity of it all. "You did not have to do all this. I wanted to. You saved my life, Owen. Let me repay you in what small ways I can." She brought the food to the table, a simple meal of beans, fresh bread, and the last of the bacon fried with onions. They ate, and this time the silence was easier, more comfortable. Over the next few days, they fell into a routine. Owen worked the ranch during the day, and Eliza kept the house, cooked the meals, and slowly regained her strength. They talked in the evenings, sharing stories of their pasts, their hopes, their regrets. Eliza learned that Owen had grown up in Texas, the youngest of 5 sons, and had headed west to make his own way when it became clear there would be no inheritance for him. He had worked as a cowboy, a ranch hand, a drover, saving every penny until he could buy this land in the Arizona Territory near the small town of San Pedro. She told him about her childhood in St. Louis, her parents' deaths in a cholera outbreak, her marriage to Charles that had seemed like salvation but had become a kind of prison. Charles had been controlling, demanding, quick to anger though he had never struck her. He had kept her isolated from friends, monitoring her every move, suspicious of any attention other men paid her. She had not mourned him, and that filled her with guilt even as she knew it was the truth. "You should not feel guilty for that," Owen said one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the distant mountains. "Not all marriages are worth mourning. Sounds like he did not treat you right, even if he never raised a hand to you. The world does not see it that way. A wife should be devoted to her husband no matter what. I failed in that." Eliza pulled her shawl tighter against the cooling air. "The world sees a lot of things wrong." Owen was quiet for a moment, then added, "You did not fail at anything, Eliza. You survived. That takes strength." Something in his voice made her look at him, really look at him, and she saw the way he was watching her, the softness in his eyes that had not been there a week ago. Her breath caught, and she felt a flutter in her chest that she had not felt in years, maybe ever. This was dangerous, letting herself feel anything for this man who had shown her nothing but kindness. She was a fugitive, a wanted woman, and she would only bring him trouble. But her heart, traitorous thing that it was, did not care about logic or danger. "I should go in," she said, standing abruptly. "It is getting cold." She fled before he could respond, but she felt his gaze on her back, warm as the vanished sun. 2 weeks passed, and no lawmen came to the ranch. Eliza began to relax, to let herself believe that maybe she had escaped after all. She and Owen had grown comfortable with each other, their conversations ranging from the mundane to the profound. She learned that he loved this land with a fierce devotion, that he could name every star in the night sky, that he had a dry sense of humor that surprised her into laughter. He learned that she had a beautiful singing voice, that she was afraid of spiders but not snakes, that she had always dreamed of seeing the ocean. The attraction between them grew impossible to ignore. It was there in the way his hand lingered when he passed her something, in the way her eyes followed him when he worked in the yard, in the sudden silences that fell between them, charged with unspoken things. Eliza knew she should not let herself feel this way, but stopping her growing feelings for Owen was like trying to hold back the tide. It came to a head one evening in late November when a cold wind blew in from the north, bringing the promise of winter. They had finished dinner, and Eliza was washing dishes when she felt him come up behind her. She froze, her hands in the soapy water, her heart hammering. "Eliza," he said softly, and his voice was rough with something she recognized as want. "I need to tell you something." "You do not have to say it." She kept her eyes on the dishes, afraid to turn around. "I know this is complicated. I know I should not be feeling what I am feeling. I am still a married woman in the eyes of the law, even though Charles is dead and I am wanted for his murder. You deserve better than this, better than me. Look at me." It was not a command but a request, and she could not deny him. She dried her hands and turned, and the expression on his face nearly undid her. "I do not care about any of that. I know it has only been 2 weeks, and I know this is probably crazy, but I am falling in love with you. I think I started falling the moment I saw you lying in my field, so fierce and determined even in your weakness. These past weeks Having you here, talking with you, learning who you are, it has been the best time of my life. I do not want you to leave. I want you to stay, not as someone I am hiding, but as my wife, my partner, if you will have me." Eliza felt tears spring to her eyes, hot and sudden. "Owen, I cannot ask you to tie yourself to me. If they find me, they will arrest me. They might even arrest you for harboring me. I care about you too much to let that happen. Then we make sure they do not find you." He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of his body, smell the scent of him, leather and sage and clean sweat. "We can go to Mexico if we have to, start over there. Or we can stay here and you can be someone else, a widow from back east who I met and married. No one in San Pedro knows you. The sheriff in town would have no reason to connect you to a woman wanted in Tucson. You would do that, risk everything for me. Yes." He reached up and cupped her face in his calloused hand, his thumb brushing away a tear. "I have been alone for so long, Eliza. I had accepted that this was my life, this solitary existence. But you came into it like a storm, and you reminded me what it feels like to have someone to care for, someone to come home to. I love you. It is that simple and that complicated." "I love you too," she whispered, and saying the words felt like leaping off a cliff, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "I did not think I could feel this way again, or maybe that I ever had. What I felt for Charles was nothing compared to this. But I am so scared, Owen. Scared of what might happen, scared of bringing danger to your door. Let me worry about that. Just tell me you will stay. Tell me you will be mine and I will be yours, and we will face whatever comes together." His eyes searched hers, dark and earnest and full of a hope that made her heart ache. "Yes," she said, and then his lips were on hers, and the world narrowed to just this, the taste of him, the feel of his arms around her, the rightness of being held by someone who truly saw her and wanted her anyway. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid of breaking the spell, but then it deepened, became something urgent and hungry. Eliza wound her arms around his neck, pressing closer, and felt him lift her, his strength effortless as he carried her to his bedroom. They made love slowly, learning each other, and it was nothing like the mechanical couplings she had endured with Charles. This was passion and tenderness, giving and taking, a conversation without words. Afterward they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his hands stroking her hair, and Eliza felt a peace she had not known in years. "We should get married as soon as possible," Owen said into the darkness. "Make it legal, or as legal as we can. I will ride into San Pedro tomorrow and talk to the preacher. We can say you are Eliza Reed, a widow from Missouri whose family died and who came west looking for a new start. I courted you through letters, and you arrived 2 weeks ago. It is close enough to the truth that we will not trip ourselves up." Reed. Eliza tested the name. It was her mother's maiden name, a small truth woven into the fiction. "All right, but are you sure about this? Once we do it, there is no going back. I have never been more sure of anything." He kissed the top of her head. "You are mine now, Eliza Reed, soon to be Quad, and I will protect you with everything I have." They married 3 days later in the small church in San Pedro, with the preacher and his wife as witnesses. Eliza wore a simple dress she had sewn from fabric Owen bought in town, pale blue cotton that brought out the color of her eyes. Owen wore his best clothes, his hair freshly cut, his jaw cleanly shaved. He looked so handsome that it took her breath away, and when he slid the simple gold band on her finger, she felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I now pronounce you man and wife," the preacher said, smiling at them with the benevolence of someone who believed he had just united 2 souls in holy matrimony. If he found it odd that Owen had courted a woman they had never met, he said nothing. perhaps used to the ways of frontier life where such things happened more often than not. Owen kissed her there in the church, and Eliza felt the last piece of her old life slip away. She was no longer Eliza Rollins, accused murderess. She was Eliza Quade, wife of Owen Quade, rancher. It was a new identity, a new chance, and she vowed to herself that she would make the most of it. They returned to the ranch as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Owen had prepared a surprise for her, a small table set up outside with candles and wildflowers, a simple wedding supper of roasted chicken and vegetables, a bottle of wine he had been saving for a special occasion. "You did all this." Eliza was touched beyond words. "I wanted our wedding day to be special. I know it is not much, but I wanted you to know how much this means to me, how much you mean to me." He pulled out her chair, ever the gentleman despite his rough edges. They ate and drank as the stars came out, thousands of them in the clear desert sky. Owen told her the names of constellations, pointing out Orion and Cassiopeia and the Pleiades. Eliza leaned against him, wrapped in a blanket against the cold, and thought that she had never been happier. "You think we will be safe here?" she asked, giving voice to the fear that still lurked in the back of her mind. "I think we have as good a chance as anywhere. San Pedro is small and people here mind their own business. As long as we do not draw attention to ourselves, we should be fine. And if someone does come asking questions, we have our story. You are my wife, plain and simple. No one can prove otherwise." He kissed her temple. "Try not to worry, Eliza, I will keep you safe." She wanted to believe him, and mostly she did. But the fear did not leave entirely, a small shadow that followed her even on the brightest days. Winter came to the Arizona territory. Not the bitter cold of her childhood in Missouri, but a milder chill. Cold nights and cool days with occasional rain. Eliza settled into her role as Owen's wife, and found that she loved the rhythm of ranch life. She learned to ride his spare horse, a gentle mare named Daisy, and sometimes accompanied him when he checked on the cattle. She learned to shoot, hesitant at first because of what she was accused of, but Owen insisted she needed to know how to protect herself. "Out here, knowing how to handle a gun is not about violence," he told her as he taught her to aim at tin cans lined up on a fence post. "It is about survival. Rattlesnakes, coyotes, mountain lions, they are all out there, and you need to be able to defend yourself if I am not around." She learned, and found she was a decent shot once she got over her initial fear. It was different when the gun was a tool rather than a weapon, when it meant protecting her home and her husband rather than taking a life. They made love often, sometimes with passionate intensity, sometimes with slow tenderness, and Eliza marveled at how her body responded to Owen's touch. He was a generous lover, attentive to her pleasure in a way Charles had never been, and she found herself craving his closeness, the way he made her feel cherished and desired. In late December, a stranger rode up to the ranch just as the sun was setting. Eliza was inside preparing dinner when she heard the sound of hooves. Her heart leaped into her throat and she froze, every muscle tense. Owen was in the barn, and she watched through the window as he emerged to greet the visitor. The man was young, maybe in his mid-20s, wearing a deputy's badge and riding a tired-looking horse. Eliza's blood ran cold. Had they found her after all? She pressed herself against the wall out of sight and strained to hear the conversation. "Afternoon," the deputy said, tipping his hat to Owen. "Sorry to bother you out here. Name is Deputy Miller from Tucson. I am looking for a woman, Eliza Rollins. She is wanted for the murder of her husband. Last anyone saw, she was headed south, maybe toward Mexico. You have not seen anyone matching her description, have you?" Dark hair, green eyes, about 5'5", would have been on foot or on a lame horse about 6 weeks back. Eliza's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. This was it. This was the moment everything would come crashing down. She could not see Owen's face, but she heard his voice, calm and steady. "Cannot say that I have, deputy. I have been out here alone all season except for my wife who arrived about a month ago from Missouri. Have not seen anyone else pass through these parts. It is pretty remote out here, as you probably noticed." "Your wife, you said?" The deputy sounded only mildly curious. "She from around here originally?" "No, from back east. We courted through letters and she came out to marry me. Name is Eliza, actually, but her maiden name was Reed. She is a widow." Owen's voice did not waver, and Eliza marveled at his composure. "That is a coincidence, the same first name. You mind if I talk to her just to confirm? I have to check every lead, you understand." Eliza's stomach dropped. She had no choice now. If she refused to show herself, it would only raise suspicion. She smoothed her hair, pinched her cheeks to bring color to them, and stepped outside, forcing a smile. "Is everything all right?" she asked, walking over to Owen and taking his arm in what she hoped was a natural gesture. "I heard voices." The deputy looked her over, and Eliza held her breath. She looked different now than she had 6 weeks ago, healthier, her hair clean and braided, her dress fresh. She bore little resemblance to the desperate, dirty woman who had collapsed in Owen's field. Still, if the deputy looked too closely, if he had a photograph or a particularly good memory for faces, he might recognize her. "Madam," the deputy said, tipping his hat. "Sorry to disturb you. I am looking for a woman wanted for murder out of Tucson. Just checking with everyone in the area to see if anyone has seen her. Your husband says you arrived here about a month ago from Missouri." "That is right," Eliza said, proud of how steady her voice was. "From a little town outside St. Louis. My first husband died last year, and I decided I wanted a fresh start out west. Owen and I had been writing for some time, and when he proposed, I accepted. I arrived in early November and we married shortly after." The deputy nodded, seeming satisfied. "You hear about anything suspicious, you let the law know, all right. This woman is dangerous, killed her husband in cold blood. She is probably armed and definitely desperate." "We will keep an eye out," Owen said. "Safe travels, deputy." They watched as the deputy mounted his horse and rode away, disappearing into the gathering dusk. Only when he was completely out of sight did Eliza let out the breath she had been holding, her knees going weak. Owen caught her, holding her steady. "It is all right. He believed us." "You did beautifully." He held her close, and she could feel his heart racing, belying his calm exterior. "That was too close," she whispered. "Owen, what if he comes back? What if someone else comes asking questions? Then we tell the same story. We are married, Eliza." "That is the truth now, the only truth that matters. Come on, let us go inside. You are shaking." That night, Eliza could not sleep, every sound making her jump, convinced that the deputy had seen through their story and was coming back with reinforcements. Owen held her, murmuring reassurances, but even his presence could not completely calm her fears. She had been so close to believing they were safe, and the deputy's visit had shattered that illusion. But days passed, then weeks, and no one else came. Christmas arrived, and Owen surprised her with gifts he had secretly bought in town. A new dress, a warm shawl, a book of poetry she had mentioned wanting to read. She had made him a shirt from fabric she had painstakingly sewn by hand, and the look of pleasure on his face when he opened it made all the effort worthwhile. They celebrated quietly, just the two of them, roasting a small turkey and making dried apple pie. They exchanged gifts by the fireplace, and Owen produced a bottle of whiskey that they shared. toasting to their future, to safety, to love. By the time they stumbled to bed, both were pleasantly drunk, and they made love with uninhibited joy, laughing and whispering words of love between kisses. The new year of 1885 came, and with it, a deep sense of peace. Eliza began to believe, truly believe, that they had escaped. The law had come and found nothing. She was Owen's wife now, accepted by the few neighbors they had and the townspeople of San Pedro. She was building a life here, a real life, and the woman she had been before was fading like a half-remembered dream. In February, Eliza woke one morning feeling ill, a wave of nausea that sent her running outside to be sick behind the house. Owen found her there, pale and shaking, and his face filled with concern. "Are you all right? Is it something you ate?" "I do not know," she said, but even as the words left her mouth, a thought occurred to her. She had missed her monthly courses, something she had not paid much attention to given the stress and upheaval of recent months, but now it seemed significant. "Owen, I think I might be with child." His face went through a series of expressions, shock, joy, fear, settling finally on a kind of awed happiness. "Truly, you think so?" "I am not certain, but the signs are there. I should know for sure in another few weeks." She looked up at him, searching his face for his true reaction. "Are you pleased?" "Pleased? Eliza, I am beyond pleased. I am overjoyed. A child, our child." He pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully as if she might break. "This is everything I never knew I wanted." Over the next weeks, it became clear that Eliza was indeed pregnant. The sickness passed after the first month, replaced by a ravenous appetite and a strange energy. She threw herself into preparing for the baby, sewing tiny clothes, setting up a cradle that Owen built from rough-hewn wood, planning and dreaming about the future. "What do you want, a boy or a girl?" Owen asked one evening as they sat together, his hand on her still flat stomach. "I do not care as long as the baby is healthy, but if I am honest, maybe a boy, a son for you to teach, to help with the ranch." She covered his hand with hers. "What about you? Same as you." "Healthy is all that matters, but I think it will be a girl with your beauty and your strength." He kissed her, soft and sweet. "I cannot wait to meet this child, Eliza, our child." Spring came to the Arizona territory, bringing wildflowers and new grass and warming days. Eliza's belly began to swell, the evidence of new life growing inside her, and she had never felt more content. The fear that had haunted her for months began to recede, pushed back by the demands of daily life and the anticipation of motherhood. In late March, a letter arrived for Owen from a lawyer in Tucson, forwarded from San Pedro. Eliza's hands shook as she watched him open it, certain it was about her, that somehow they had been discovered. But Owen's face showed only confusion as he read. "It is about your husband," he said slowly, looking up at her. "About Charles Rollins." "What about him?" Eliza asked, her mouth dry. "They caught the man who killed him, a business partner named Thomas Greer who Charles had apparently been embezzling from. Greer confessed to the murder when they arrested him for trying to kill another man the same way. He said he climbed in through the window while you were in the next room, shot Charles, and climbed back out. He had no idea you had been accused." Owen set the letter down, his eyes shining. "Eliza, they know you are innocent. They dropped all charges. You are free." Eliza stared at him, unable to process the words. "Free? I am really free?" "Yes. There is a formal notice clearing your name, an apology from the sheriff. They want to know your whereabouts so they can notify you officially." He took her hands in his. "You do not have to hide anymore, Eliza. You can be yourself again." She burst into tears, great sobbing gasps of relief and joy and release. All these months of fear, of looking over her shoulder, of living under a false name, and now it was over. She was innocent, vindicated, free. Owen held her as she cried, stroking her hair and murmuring words of comfort and love. "I cannot believe it," she said when she finally got herself under control. "I never thought this would happen. I thought I would be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. I know, but it is over now. You are safe, truly safe." He pulled back to look at her, his thumb wiping away her tears. "What do you want to do? Do you want to write back, tell them where you are, reclaim your old name?" Eliza thought about it, really thought about it. Eliza Rollins was dead in a way. She had been running from that woman for months, trying to become someone new, and she had succeeded. She was Eliza Quade now, wife of Owen Quade, soon to be mother of his child. That was who she wanted to be. "No," she said finally. "Let them think Eliza Rollins disappeared, that she died somewhere in the desert or made it to Mexico and started a new life. I do not want that name anymore. I do not want any connection to that old life. I am Eliza Quade, and that is all I want to be." Owen searched her face, making sure she was certain. "You are sure? You do not have to hide anymore." "I am not hiding. I am choosing. I am choosing this life, this name, that is different." She took his hand and placed it on her belly, where the first small swell of pregnancy was just visible. "I am choosing our family." He kissed her then, deep and passionate, and she felt the last shackles of her old life fall away. She was free, truly free, not because the law said so, but because she had chosen to be. They burned the letter that night, watching the paper curl and blacken in the fireplace. It felt like a cleansing, a final severing of ties to a past that no longer served her. Eliza Rollins was gone. Long live Eliza Quade. The summer was hot, the kind of heat that made the air shimmer and drove everyone indoors during the middle of the day. Eliza moved slowly now, her belly large with their child, due to arrive in early September if her calculations were correct. Owen fussed over her constantly, barely letting her do anything, and she found his attentiveness both endearing and slightly annoying. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," she told him one afternoon when he tried to stop her from hanging laundry. "I need to keep moving or I will go crazy." "I know, I just worry. What if you overdo it? What if something happens?" He looked so genuinely concerned that she could not stay annoyed. "Nothing is going to happen. Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. I am strong and healthy and everything is progressing normally. You need to relax." She kissed his cheek. "Save your energy for when the baby arrives. You will need it then." Owen arranged for a midwife from San Pedro to attend the birth, a capable woman named Mrs. Hawkins who had delivered half the babies in the territory. She examined Eliza and pronounced her fit, the baby in a good position, everything as it should be. Her presence eased some of Owen's fears, though he still hovered like a nervous bird. The baby came on a hot September night, announced by contractions that woke Eliza from a sound sleep. Owen rode like hell to fetch Mrs. Hawkins, and by the time they returned, Eliza was pacing the bedroom, breathing through the pains as they came faster and harder. The labor was long, lasting through the night and into the next day, and there were moments when Eliza was certain she could not do it, that the pain would break her. But Mrs. Hawkins was a steady presence, and Owen never left her side, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth, murmuring encouragement. When the baby finally arrived just as the sun was setting, filling the room with golden light, it was a boy, perfect and squalling and beautiful. Owen cut the cord with shaking hands, and Mrs. Hawkins cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft blanket before placing him in Eliza's arms. "Hello, little one," Eliza whispered, tears streaming down her face as she looked at her son. He had Owen's dark hair and her eyes, a perfect blend of them both. "Welcome to the world." "He is perfect," Owen said, his voice thick with emotion. He sat on the edge of the bed, one arm around Eliza, one finger gently touching the baby's tiny hand. Thank you for this gift." They named him Oliver Thomas Quade, Oliver for Owen's father who had died when Owen was young, Thomas for Eliza's father. Oliver, Ollie for short, a new life born from the ashes of Eliza's old one. The next months were a blur of sleepless nights and endless feedings, of learning how to care for a tiny human who depended on them for everything. It was exhausting and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Owen proved to be a devoted father, rising with Eliza during the night feedings, walking Ollie when he was fussy, changing diapers without complaint. Watching him with their son, seeing the gentleness and love in his eyes, Eliza fell even more deeply in love with him. "I never knew life could be this good," she told him one night as they lay in bed, Ollie asleep in his cradle nearby. "There were times when I thought I would die in the desert, or that I would hang for a crime I did not commit. I never imagined this, a home, a husband I love, a child. It feels like a dream. It is not a dream. It is real and it is ours. You deserve this happiness, Eliza. You deserve everything good." He pulled her closer, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. The years passed in a rhythm of seasons, summers and winters, planting and harvest. Ollie grew from a baby to a toddler to a small boy, dark-haired and adventurous, with his father's quiet strength and his mother's fierce determination. When he was 3, Eliza became pregnant again, and this time she carried the child with less fear, more confidence. She knew what to expect now, knew she could do it. Their daughter was born in the spring of 1888, a cool April morning with rain pattering on the roof. The labor was shorter this time, easier, and when the baby arrived, she was tiny and delicate with wisps of light brown hair and Owen's dark eyes. "A girl," Owen said, wonder in his voice as he held his daughter for the first time. "We have a daughter." They named her Margaret Ruth Quade, Margaret for Eliza's mother, Ruth for Owen's mother. Maggie for short, a little girl who would grow up knowing nothing but love and security, who would never have to run or hide or fear the knock on the door. Life on the ranch was good. Owen's cattle operation had grown steadily, and they were comfortable if not wealthy. They had friends in San Pedro, neighbors who dropped by for visits, a church they attended on Sundays. Eliza had become a respected member of the community, known for her kindness and her excellent cooking. No one ever questioned her past, and if anyone noticed that she was the same age as the fugitive Eliza Rollins who had disappeared years ago, they never said anything. Sometimes, late at night when the house was quiet and the children were asleep, Eliza would think about that desperate woman who had collapsed in Owen's field. She felt like a different person now, separated by years and experience and love. That woman had been running from death. This woman was running toward life, embracing every moment. "You ever regret it?" she asked Owen one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. Ollie and Maggie were playing in the yard, their laughter carried on the warm breeze. "Taking me in, hiding me, marrying me. You could have had a simpler life without me." Owen was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was firm. "I have never regretted a single moment. You gave me everything, Eliza. A home, a family, a purpose beyond just existing. Before you, I was going through the motions of living. After you, I started actually living. How could I regret that?" "I love you," she said, the words inadequate for the depth of feeling behind them, but the only ones she had. "I love you too. Always have, always will." He took her hand, his thumb rubbing over her knuckles, over the gold band she had worn for years now. "You are my heart, Eliza Quade." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon and the stars began to appear. Ollie ran over, demanding to be picked up, and Owen obliged, swinging the boy onto his shoulders. Maggie toddled after them, and Eliza scooped her up, breathing in the sweet smell of her daughter's hair. This was happiness, she realized. Not the absence of trouble or fear, but the presence of love, of family, of home. She had been hiding from the law when she found Owen, but what she had been hiding from most was herself, from the possibility of real happiness, real love. He had given her all of that and more. As the years continued to pass, the ranch prospered. Owen hired help, a couple of steady ranch hands who lived in the bunkhouse and worked the cattle. Eliza tended a large garden, keeping them in vegetables through the summer and canning for the winter. She raised chickens, made butter and cheese, sewed clothes for the children as they grew. It was a busy life but a satisfying one. Ollie turned 6, then 8, then 10, growing tall and lean like his father, learning to ride and rope and work cattle. Maggie was 4, then 6, a bright child who loved books and learning, who could already read better than most adults. In 1891, Eliza gave birth to another son, a surprise baby they named William James, Will for short. He was a happy, easy baby, content to watch the world from his mother's arms or his father's lap. The family attended church picnics and harvest festivals, celebrated holidays with neighbors, and built a life woven into the fabric of the community. No one ever came asking about Eliza Rollins again. That woman had vanished into history, a footnote in Tuckson's records, a mystery never solved. Eliza Quade had taken her place, and that was as it should be. On their 10th wedding anniversary in 1894, Owen surprised Eliza with a trip to Tucson. It was the first time she had been back since fleeing all those years ago, and she was nervous, even though she knew the charges had been dropped, even though she was legally innocent. "Are you sure about this?" she asked as they rode into town, leaving the children with Mrs. Hawkins for the weekend. "What if someone recognizes me?" "They will not. It has been 10 years. You look different, older, happier. Besides, you are Eliza Quade now. Even if someone did recognize you, which they will not, you have done nothing wrong." Owen squeezed her hand. "I thought it might be good for you to face the place that scared you and realize it has no power over you anymore." He was right. Walking through Tucson's dusty streets, seeing the courthouse where she might have been tried and convicted, the jail where she might have been held, Eliza felt a strange sense of closure. This place had loomed large in her nightmares for years, but seeing it in daylight, it was just a town, ordinary and unremarkable. The ghosts that had chased her were gone, laid to rest by time and truth. They stayed in a hotel, a luxury after years of ranch living, and ate in a restaurant, another novelty. Owen bought her a new dress, deep green that matched her eyes, and a cameo brooch she had admired in a shop window. They walked through the streets hand in hand, and Eliza felt lighter than she had in years. "Thank you for this," she said as they prepared to leave, standing outside the hotel on a bright Sunday morning. "You were right. I needed to see that this place cannot hurt me anymore. I am not that frightened woman who ran. I am someone different now." "You are," Owen agreed. "You are strong and brave and beloved. You are my wife, the mother of my children, the love of my life. That is all you need to be." They rode home, back to their ranch and their children, back to the life they had built together. And Eliza knew with a certainty that went bone deep that she was finally, truly free. The children grew. Ollie became a young man, tall and capable, working the ranch alongside his father, talking about eventually starting his own spread. Maggie turned into a beautiful young woman with her mother's green eyes and her father's quiet strength, dreaming of becoming a teacher. Will was 10, all energy and mischief, keeping them all on their toes. In 1899, Eliza and Owen celebrated their 15th anniversary. They were both in their 40s now, with silver threading through their hair, laugh lines around their eyes, the comfortable ease of two people who had shared half their lives. The ranch was thriving, the children were healthy, and they had everything they had ever wanted. "Do you remember the day I found you?" Owen asked one evening as they sat on the porch, a ritual they had maintained for 15 years. "You were lying in my field, more dead than alive, and I thought you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen." "I remember. I thought you were an angel, or maybe that I had died and you were guiding me to the next world." Eliza smiled at the memory, so vivid even after all these years. "I never imagined that you would become my whole world. You are mine," Owen said simply. "You were from that first moment, even though I did not know it yet. My heart knew, I think. It recognized you." "I love you, Owen Quade. I have loved you for 15 years, and I will love you for 15 more and 15 after that, for as long as we have." She leaned against him, fitting perfectly into the curve of his arm. "And I love you, Eliza Quade. For all the days I have left, you are my heart, my home, my everything." They sat together as the stars came out, as they had done thousands of times before, and would do thousands of times again. Two souls who had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, and built a love that would last a lifetime. Eliza thought about the woman she had been, desperate and alone and hunted, and the woman she had become, loved and secure and whole. The journey between those two versions of herself had been painful and terrifying, but she would not change a moment of it because it had led her here, to this man, to this life, to this perfect, imperfect happiness. Inside the house, she could hear their children laughing, the sounds of home and family. This was what she had been running toward all along, even when she thought she was running away. This was the life she was meant to have, the love she was meant to find. And she had found it in a lonely rancher who had looked at a desperate fugitive and seen not a criminal, but a woman worth saving, worth loving, worth building a life with. As the moon rose over the Arizona territory, casting silver light over the land they called home, Eliza Quade closed her eyes and gave thanks for the bullet that had missed her, the horse that had gone lame, the field where she had collapsed, and most of all, for the man who had found her there and loved her anyway. It had been a long road from that desperate day to this peaceful night, but every step had been worth it. She was home, truly home, in a way she had never been before. The years continued their steady march, bringing changes both large and small. Ollie married at 21, a sweet girl named Sarah from San Pedro, and they built a small house on the far edge of the Quad property, starting their own herd. Within a year, they made Eliza and Owen grandparents, a baby boy named after Owen. Holding her grandson for the first time, Eliza wept with joy, marveling at the continuation of the family she and Owen had created from nothing. Maggie pursued her dream of teaching, attending a college in Phoenix for 2 years before returning to San Pedro to teach at the small schoolhouse. She was beloved by her students and respected by the community, a bright young woman who had benefited from her mother's emphasis on education and her father's steady support. Will grew into a fine young man, quieter than his older brother but with a quick wit and a way with horses that was almost uncanny. He talked about training horses professionally, and Owen encouraged him, seeing a viable path to a good life. Eliza and Owen grew older together, their hair turning silver, their faces weathered by sun and wind and years. but their love never dimmed. If anything, it grew deeper, richer, the kind of love that comes from truly knowing another person, from sharing joys and sorrows, triumphs and failures, from building a life brick by brick, day by day. In 1905, they celebrated their 21st anniversary. The whole family gathered at the ranch for a party, children and grandchildren, neighbors and friends. There was music and dancing, food enough to feed an army, laughter that echoed across the land. As the sun set and the party wound down, Owen took Eliza's hand and led her away from the crowd, out to their favorite spot on the porch. 21 years, he said, shaking his head in wonder. Sometimes it feels like yesterday that I found you in my field. Other times, it feels like you have always been here, like I cannot remember a time before you. I know what you mean. My life before you feels like it happened to someone else in another world. This is my only reality now, this life, this family, you. Eliza looked out over the land they had worked together, the home they had built, the legacy they were leaving for their children and grandchildren. We did good, did we not? We did great, Owen corrected. Better than I ever dreamed possible. You gave me everything, Eliza. You took a lonely, bitter man and taught him how to live, how to love, how to hope. I will be grateful for that until the day I die. And you gave me my life back, Eliza said, her voice thick with emotion. You saw me at my lowest when I had nothing and no one, and you chose to help me. You chose to love me. You gave me safety, a home, a family, a reason to live. I would not have survived without you, Owen. I know that. I would have died in that field, or I would have been caught and hanged. You saved me in every way a person can be saved. They held each other as the stars came out, as the sounds of their family drifted on the night breeze, as the land stretched out around them, constant and eternal. They had built something real here, something that would last long after they were gone. Their children would remember their love, would tell their grandchildren about the lonely rancher who found a woman hiding from the law and loved her anyway, who built a life with her that became a legacy. I would do it all again, Owen said quietly. Every moment, every choice, every risk. I would do it all again for you. As would I, Eliza whispered. 1,000 times over. They sat together as they always had, as they always would for as long as they both lived, two souls bound together by chance and choice, by desperation and devotion, by a love that had transformed them both. The woman who had collapsed in Owen's field all those years ago was gone, replaced by this woman, strong and loved and free. And the lonely rancher who had found her was gone too, replaced by this man, this husband and father and grandfather, whose life had been enriched beyond measure by the choice to help a stranger. As the moon rose high and the party inside finally quieted, Owen stood and offered Eliza his hand. Come to bed, my love. We have another day tomorrow and another after that, and I want to spend every single one of them with you. Eliza took his hand and let him lead her inside, to the bedroom they had shared for 21 years, to the bed where they had made love and conceived children and held each other through nightmares and illnesses and fears. She had found her home here in this man's arms, and she would be grateful for that gift every day for the rest of her life. They made love that night with the tenderness of long familiarity, knowing every touch that pleased, every word that stirred, moving together in a rhythm perfected by years. Afterward, they lay tangled together, and Eliza thought about all the paths her life might have taken, all the ways things could have gone differently. She could have died in the desert. She could have been caught and hanged for a crime she did not commit. She could have made it to Mexico and spent her life as a fugitive, always looking over her shoulder. But instead, by grace or luck or fate, she had found Owen and he had given her this life, this beautiful, ordinary, extraordinary life. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. "I love you," he whispered back, and she felt him kiss her hair, felt his arms tighten around her. Outside, the Arizona night was cool and clear, the stars wheeling overhead in their ancient dance. Inside, Eliza Quade slept in the arms of the man she loved, surrounded by the evidence of the life they had built together, safe and cherished and free at last. She had been hiding from the law when she found this place, but what she had really found was so much more: a home, a family, a love that would last all the days of her life. And that was the greatest gift of all, the end.